Hello and welcome once again to Straight Bat, my weekly video blog, where, as the title suggests, I comment with a straight bat. Now, it's election time and I've just returned after spending 10 days across two states, my home state of Goa and the state of Punjab. And wherever I go, someone tends to ask me, tell me who's winning in these states. It's not something that I usually respond to because I am not a psephologist. I am not involved in the numbers game. But what I try and do is when I go to a place, I try and meet as many people as possible on the ground to get a sense of the hawa. You can call me a parachute journalist at election time, but over the years, the attempt is made to find out hawa kis taraf hai, which way is the wind blowing, and that's exactly what I've tried to do in Goa and Punjab, and that's what I'm going to tell you today on the Straight Bat. So here is the big breaking news right at the top. Both in Goa and Punjab, it is my belief that change is in the air. The word I heard often in Goa was "Amka badal jai." We want change. In Punjab, I heard it even more vociferously. "Hame badlav chahiye." Now, what does badlav or badal mean? In Goa, you have a BJP government. In Punjab, you have a Congress government in power. In Goa, the BJP has been in power now for 10 years, over 2 terms. In Punjab, the Congress has been in power for 5 years. Before that, the Akalis were in power for 10 years. The fact is, both these governments are, according to me, from what I could see, facing serious anti-incumbency. In Goa, it is more difficult to measure the extent of this anti-incumbency because these are small constituencies, 25,000-30,000 people. And as I've often said, elections in Goa are transactional. You need small groups of voters to vote for you and you can win an election. That's why local candidates matter more than even party labels. But truth be told, Pramod Sawant, the Chief Minister of Goa, is clearly no Manohar Parrikar. He appears to be unpopular. The BJP has lost, I'm clear about it, the state's 25% Catholic vote, or most of it, and the party itself seems badly divided between the cadres and the so-called new entrants in the BJP. The obvious beneficiary of the BJP slide, one would expect, is the Congress, which is the single largest opposition party in Goa, or the principal opposition party. Whether the Congress can actually get a majority on its own in the 40-member assembly, difficult to say. Much of that will depend on the extent to which the Aam Aadmi Party dents the Congress vote. To what extent does the anti-BJP vote get split? The BJP's best hope is not so much it reaches 21, but to prevent the Congress and the other parties from reaching 21 and then create post-poll alliances. So Goa, difficult in that sense to predict kaun banega Mukhyamantri. Punjab is a little, or dare I say, very different. Here there is enough anecdotal evidence at the moment, especially in the Malwa region, which accounts for 69 of the 117 seats of Punjab, that the mood on the ground of Badlav is slowly turning into a wave. That's right. The obvious beneficiary of this wave or this desire for change is the Aam Aadmi Party. I know that even ahead of the 2017 elections, when people traveled to Malwa, they thought AAP was winning and the final result was very different. The Congress won that election. 2022, though, I think is a little different. Across rural Malwa this time, we saw that people were not just tired, but angry and disgusted with the two main parties of Punjab, the Congress and the Akalis. Besides, this time, the Aam Aadmi Party has given a clear chief ministerial face in Bhagwant Singh Mann, who I can tell you is wildly popular in rural areas as some kind of a folk hero. The AAP slogan, "Give us one mauka, ek mauka do," appears to be working on the ground in Malwa. We don't know whether this will spread to Doaba and Majha because we didn't travel to Majha and only a limited travel in Doaba. But in Malwa, the mood for change in Punjab was clear. Now remember, the Congress has changed its Chief Minister to Charanjit Singh Channi just 4 months ago and now made him their CM face. But I've been poring through electoral history and frankly in recent times, I haven't found a single case where a chief minister takes over just 6 months before a poll and is able to arrest a party's slide. Channi, therefore, is facing the anti-incumbency of 4.5 years of Captain Amrinder Singh, who frankly it appears overstayed in office at the moment. Channi is a popular figure. He's a more accessible chief minister, but the Congress faces leadership struggles. The Channi versus Navjot Singh Sidhu battle that has taken place, I can tell you, has damaged the Congress on the ground, especially Sidhu suggesting that Channi is a weak chief minister who's remote controlled by the high command. Channi, as I said, not just popular figure, remember, he is also Punjab's first Dalit Sikh chief minister in a state with a 32% Dalit population, and the Congress has a well-entrenched party system in the state. So, in a sense, unless Channi now is able to capitalize on this so-called Dalit vote bank, the Congress is going to struggle to once again become the party number one of Punjab and return to power. It almost seems at times that the self-destruct button is pressed when I hear of the Channi versus Sidhu war that has taken place. The obvious question that I now want to ask, looking at Goa, looking at Punjab, why is badlav or change in the air? That's what I want to look at. The answer, I believe, lies that India in pandemic times over the last 2 years is in a situation where several state governments have been caught napping. Don't forget that in Goa, the second wave of COVID extracted a terrible toll. In April, May this year, in just around 19 days, Goa added another 1,000 deaths to its COVID tally in just 19 deaths. For a small state, that's a big number. A number of people died in Goa because of oxygen shortage in the state's main government hospital, the Government Goa Medical College. That added to this sense of unease and anger. It was during this pandemic time that the Sawant government in Goa was found wanting, floundering between, do we go for a lockdown, do we have a curfew, unable to provide a clear-headed leadership. People, I believe, haven't forgotten it, nor have they forgotten that in the last year, and especially during the pandemic time, unemployment has soared in the state. Now, you can't blame the ruling government for the fact that the tourism industry has collapsed, but there's a sense that there was a lack of empathy, that the jobless were not being looked after. Switch now to Punjab. Here too, Berozgari stares you at every nook and corner of the state. We went to the ancestral village of Shahid Bhagat Singh in Khatkar Kalan. We were shocked to find that almost all the young people are leaving the village. They want to go out, migrate. The destination is Canada. All the posters are about how to get a visa to go to Canada. Also, I can tell you, Punjab handled the COVID situation very poorly. Vaccination rates in Punjab are much below that of many other parts of the country. Okay, COVID mismanagement plus corruption, and there are serious corruption charges in both Punjab and in Goa, plus unemployment is a deadly triple whammy. COVID, corruption, unemployment. Sand mafia in Punjab, and we are told about the various land mafias of Goa. Now let me throw some data. According to the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, in each of these 5 poll-bound states, the number of people employed gainfully in December 2021 was less than 5 years ago. In UP, the total number of people with jobs has shrunk by 16 lakhs. In Punjab, 3 lakh fewer people have jobs despite the working age population growing by 2.58 crores or growing to 2.58 crores. Goa has seen the sharpest fall in percentage terms. 5 years ago, 1 in 2 Goans had a job. It's now 1 in 3. In Uttarakhand, the working population has dropped by almost 4.41 lakhs or almost 14%. Net, we have 4 states, I don't have the data for Manipur, with large, young and restless and yes, unemployed people. Since I haven't traveled through UP and Uttarakhand, I can make no predictions as to how this is affecting the elections on the ground at the moment. But I can tell you in Goa and Punjab, one thing is clear. This mood of badlav is something that is putting incumbent governments and every MLA seeking re-election on notice. The final numbers will come on March 10th, but I've given you a teaser, a potential teaser to what could happen in at least 2 of these states come March 10th. Is change in the air? That's the question that's blowing in the wind. That's it on this Straight Bat edition. For many more such videos, do subscribe to my YouTube channel. For now, stay well, stay safe. As always, Jai Hind, Namaskar.